To face, I'm Niresh Aliyatambi. Now nearly 20 candidates have already thrown their hat into the ring, all intent on becoming Sri Lanka's next president. But it's not just enough to throw your hat into the ring, it's time for them to answer the tough questions of how they would govern if they are elected. And we have one such candidate for the presidency here with us today, Mr. Nuwan Bopage, who is the candidate from the Jana Aragala Sandhanaya or People's Struggle Alliance. Now he is a familiar figure to all Sri Lankans because he became quite famous during the days of the Aragalaya, that peaceful movement which ended with the overthrowing of or the resigning of the government of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Welcome, Nuwan.
Good evening.
So Nuwan, before we get to our local politics, let me ask you a question about what's been happening in Bangladesh, our neighbor in SAARC in South Asia, and it went through a tumultuous week or 10 days which resulted in hundreds of people being killed in protests, and finally the resignation of the Prime Minister and the dissolving of the government, and in fact the leaders of the government have fled the country as well. What's your opinion on this, Lord?
Yeah, like Sri Lanka, actually in Bangladesh also it's a other historical people's uprising. All what I want to say now, certain segments of the society is going to compare it with Sri Lankan struggle in 2022.
That's right.
All what I want to say, as far as Sheikh Hasina's rule is concerned, it's not similar to Gotabaya Rajapaksa's rule, but it's very identical to Ranil Wickremesinghe's rule. For instance, Sheikh Hasina, she has fully implemented IMF reforms in Bangladesh. At the same time, she brought acts like online safety bill, and Ranil Wickremesinghe wanted to abolish all the labour laws and bring one labour law. Similarly, Sheikh Hasina brought very draconian labour laws. Exploitation is very high. So these rules, Sheikh Hasina's rule is very similar to Ranil Wickremesinghe's rule. So all what I want to say, this is an alarming situation. If we have not kicked off Ranil Wickremesinghe from his rule, this would be the next result that he has to inevitably face, because all his activities, all his behaviors which are completely detrimental to the working class, general public, ultimately it will be erupted as a struggle in Bangladesh.
Well, let's hope that won't be the case, but we do have elections coming in about less than 7 weeks time, so that's a short space of time in which we will then get to decide the next president, and possibly we would then have an election for the parliament as well. So before the end of December, before the end of this year, we are likely to have a new president and a new parliament. So hopefully it will not end up as Bangladesh has ended up. So Nuwan, let's get to your party and your campaign now. It's an interesting coalition that has come about. Could you explain who are the main players in your coalition, and what brought it about?
Yeah, actually 3 registered political parties align with the People's Struggle Alliance: Frontline Socialist Party, New Democratic Marxist-Leninist Party, and Socialist People's Forum. These are the main political parties. Apart from that, there are few individuals and few movements who actively participate in goal-based struggle also join hand with the People's Struggle Alliance. With these parties only we form the People's Struggle Alliance.
Now that's interesting. Can you go into some detail as to why your these parties felt the need to actually send their own candidate to the election rather than supporting one of the other main candidates?
Yes. At the moment, what are the policies now? Even the main demand of the Aragaleva system change. Now in front of us there are 3 candidates now, right now, doing their campaigns for last few months. Actually some candidates have been doing their campaign for last 2 years. Ranil Wickremesinghe's policy is one of the candidates. His policy is very clear: pro IMF, pro neoliberal system, pro Indian intervention, and with that policies actually he is completely disregarding the general public, working class. So he is a savior or is a protector for one segment of the society. Then Sajith Premadas, that party SJB is concerned, their policy is also no much different to Ranil Wickremesinghe's policy. More or less their policies are similar to Ranil Wickremesinghe's. Even the NPP is concerned, they are pro IMF and they are not doing anything against the Indian intervention. And as far as the neoliberal policies such as privatization of education, privatization of health, these policies are concerned, I think NPP, their statement, still they have not produced their published their policy statement, their actually manifesto, but the statement of their leaders says that their policy is also similar to Ranil Wickremesinghe's policy. In this context, the country need alternative policy, alternative program, left-oriented program. So we, being 3 main political parties of our alliance are left parties, at the same time progressive individuals who were in the Golfes Aragalaya had a lengthy discussion, and after much deliberation we decided people at this crucial juncture need an alternative left-oriented program. Therefore we believe the only alliance, only party who come up with that kind of alternative left-oriented policy is People's Struggle Alliance.
But when you had discussions with all the major parties before you took a decision, correct?
Within the
outside, that is the SJB. No, you did not.
We actually it's on the face of it, it's clear. Their policies are very clear. So even though they have not up to now published their program or manifesto, so always they are in their meetings, they express their ideas about their vision. So it's very clear they are pro neoliberal parties.
So that's very interesting, because the NPP, whose main component is the JVP, has for decades been more leftist and supposedly representing the workers of the country, but your group felt that it is no longer in that position of championing the rights of the workers.
As far as their statements and their actions and inactions are concerned, our conclusion is that it is not a left party anymore. That's why actually that's the very reason that we were compelled to come up with a left-oriented plan. So actually we invite who are in JVP and NPP, who believe in socialist system, who believe in real system change. The only movement that they could work with is the People's Struggle Alliance.
Now you mentioned the manifestos of other parties not having come out yet, but you yourself are the very first candidate to come out with a manifesto.
Yeah.
You got that interestingly and quite laudably in Sinhala, Tamil and English.
Yes.
So you have it with you right there, I see.
Yes, I have the copies of these.
Yeah, and I must confess that I was not able to read the entire manifesto, but I did take a glance at it, and it's 160 odd pages.
Yes.
And seems quite comprehensive.
Yes.
And you cover practically every aspect of life in Sri Lanka and the challenges ahead. So let's get to that. First challenge that I want you to address is the cost of living. That's the decisive factor, I feel, in this election. People are unable, for the large part, to actually have a good standard of living because of the cost of everyday items.
Yeah.
How would you go about addressing this?
Yeah. Actually, that cost of living is directly connected to the economic crisis which we are facing right now. So we are in this our manifesto mainly our main concern is how to reform this entire economy. Now the exist in the prevailing economy is market-based, profit-based economy. We want to change it to completely change it to society-based economy. Then the requirements of the people, of the public, is the most paramount important thing according to our vision. That is the main change that we are going to do for the system. So once we implement such a system, of course the benefits of the economy will slowly go into the working class, slowly will go to the people. As in this particular manifesto, there are two parts. One is our ultimate aim, where we going to culminate our struggle, especially change in the economy and the state structure. The second part is a transitionary reforms. These are reforms. Of course, as far as the reforms are concerned, first of all, we are planning to reduce the taxation, especially the direct tax, and the income tax ratio is now 15 to 85. 85% income is coming from indirect taxes. So in these indirect taxes only main reason for these inflation and other things, the cost of living. So we are going to reduce it to take it into 50 to 50%, so ratio. So then actually we are reducing the taxes for general public, especially the indirect tax. So with that, I think people get more benefits. At the same time, the minimum salary, minimum wage. So right now, according to the central bank statistics, you need 57,500 for worker, the minimum salary to their day-to-day survival, but the government has gazetted only 16,000. So as a government, we are taking immediate steps to increase the minimum salary to 57,500 based on the rationale, scientific research of the central bank. So with that, of course, once we do that, of course, the people get benefit out of that, both state and private sector and semi-government as well. At the same time, a state sector is concerned, we are going to bring it to 2,000 per day, the salary. Now they are demanding that, so we have to immediately give that demand to that people. So with that, salary increments, reducing the taxation, that will ultimately the people will be benefited out of that. This kind of transitionally immediate steps which we are going to do this to reduce the cost of living.
So when you talk about reduced taxes, are you saying okay, right now the VAT is 18%, what would you bring it down to?
Yes, so actually VAT and some certain other taxes, especially what we are our state structure is concerned, that clearly connected to that state structure is concerned. So basically people oriented, at the same time participatory democracy. When deciding a taxation, actually we are consulting the people. After consulting people, through that only we are reducing the taxation. So therefore, after consulting the people, we have to decide that. So we are proposing here a proper mechanism as to how get the ideas of the people through the mechanisms like People's Council. Already there are some certain mechanisms throughout the country. We are going to form this kind of people's committee. Through their ideas only, we are deciding the tax policy of the country.
Interesting indeed. So that would apply to all types of taxes, corporate tax, pay, income tax, and so on. So that would, of course, reduce the cost of living.
Yes.
But at the same time, now when you reduce taxes, and I'm all for reducing taxes, don't get me wrong, but when you do reduce taxes, you have reduced revenue for the government. And right now, I think something like 83 or 84%
yes.
of government revenue goes to pay the wages of something like 1.7 million government servants plus the pensioners. So this is something you can't avoid. You have to pay it. Whichever party comes into office is going to be saddled with this 1.7 million people in government. So how do you, if you're reducing the revenue, how do you address this?
Exactly. That's why at the beginning I said the ratio of indirect tax and direct tax, we are going to bring it to 50 to 50. Then of course 50%, the now it's 15 to 85. Once the direct tax, so recovering direct tax from the depending on the wealth, so we are proposing proportionate tax system. Depending on your wealth, you have to pay taxes. So definitely with that, if it comes to from 15% to 50%, that will increase the revenue of the country. At the same time, there are, according to the statistic, 1 trillion rupees unpaid taxes. So actually those are scams. So we are going to bring a new mechanism to recover this amount. So definitely then they have to pay that. That will increase the revenue. At the same time, now the fiscal policy is the one of the main issue in the country as far as the economic crisis is concerned. So fiscal policy means we are lack of rupees. The state income was actually drastically going down. Why? Because profit earning, the state enterprises, they sold. The government policy was, the neoliberal policy was, government should not involve in business. As a result of that, now, even now, with this crisis, they are going to sell profit earning enterprises like telecom, insurance corporation. So we are going to strengthen the strain on enterprises. Through that, we are going to recover certain the considerable amount of money as the state revenue.
But what about loss-making state-owned enterprises?
So
what are you going to do?
We have to restructure them. Restructuring does not mean that we are going to sell. So government should, the inability of the government, we should first understand that's the inability of the government. So if there are people who actually want to change the system, could easily convert this to profit earning enterprises. So we take maximum steps to do that. At the same time, there are certain areas that you need not profit. Those are services. For example, transport, health, education. Those are not commodities. Then we have to keep them as at least without profit. With the break even the thing, we can proceed with that. So we have that idea as well. At the same time, the economic crisis is concerned, second part is a dollar exchange issue. So we didn't have foreign reserves. Now what the Ranil Wickremesinghe and this government doing, what are the main sections that you can earn dollars for? Your harbors, the airports, at the same time certain exports. So now while curtailing these areas, while selling the airports, while selling the harbors to foreign countries, how you can earn the dollars? So we completely stop this process, and we try to generate dollars through these resources available with us, and at the same time we are going to build a production oriented economy. With that, initially we can start it slowly and we can develop it. So with that, when there is a production based economy, of course we can give a proper answer for lack of dollars and foreign exchange crisis. With that, we increase the revenue of the country. With that, I think we can build a sustainable economy.
But Nuwan, now let's address the size of the government sector. 1.7 million government servants, including the state-owned enterprises. That's an enormous number, considering we have less than 22 million people, and especially when you consider how many are adults, how many are actually working. 1.7 million is huge. How do you reduce this? How in the world, I mean, you have to bring it down to just a few 100,000, and it's an enormous task to do so, because successive governments seem to have just simply hired all of their lackeys into the government sector. How do you reduce this?
Yeah, as you correctly pointed out, more or less all the governments are responsible for this, because once they come to power to keep their vote base, without any scientific method, without any control, they gave certain positions in the government sector. So we have to identify, now anyway you like it know there's a 1.8 or 1.7 million government servants. So we will take our maximum step to increase the productivity through them. At the same time, we can think about other measures. For example, if we feel this is a big burden to the economy, then after discussing with them, we can introduce certain solutions for them. So first of all, we are of the view still we can manage this issue. So we can, once the entire nature of the state has been changed, when the people feel that it is their government, when people feel that they can participate in decision making process, then they feel this is their government, they are not outsiders, they are not strangers. So with that, I think we believe that we can get their support for the development of the economy.
But what would be the ideal number of government servants? Now it's 1.7 million or thereabouts. Would it be something like 1 million or less? Any particular target?
No, that depending on the way of thinking of the government. If we believe, so we want to expand this government service, we want to get more assistance from the public for the government servant, actually we might increase it to another 2.5 or 3. That depending on the way that the people who control the government is thinking, that depend on the policy of the government. Now right now the policy of the government is, the under neoliberal system, government should not involve in businesses and other enterprises. That is the government policy. So our policy is complete change. We believe in a society based, society oriented economy, not profit or market based economy. We need more contribution from the people to enhance the economy and develop the country. In a situation like that, actually we need not to reduce this amount, we might increase this and get more support from the general public for the government service.
An interesting proposition indeed. But you mentioned one, vital sectors like health, transport, education, which of course in many countries it remains, these remain within the state.
Exactly.
However, now in Sri Lanka these are within the state, the ambit of the state, health, transport and education, for the most part. But the level of services offered is abysmal. I'm sorry to say that the health sector, which was the pride of Sri Lanka for many years, is now crumbling. We have had so many scandals with it, and we have huge risk with doctors and nurses fleeing the country. So there's an immense issue. So it's been completely mismanaged. Then if you take transportation, well, I'm sure that none of the 225 members of parliament have gone in a bus or a train any time in the last couple of years, perhaps even in their lives, because the low level of comfort and the low efficiency. Trains don't run on time, things just have simply collapsed. And then of course education, well, it's great that everyone gets a free education, but in the end the level of education, the standard is very low, and the private sector is always complaining that the people who come out of our school system are unemployable. They need to be trained, retaught everything all over again. So in this sense, how do you reform this? Because the state is already there and has messed it all up.
Exactly. Now the number one is the attitude of the rulers is the main important thing. Now here, for example, for education, still they were unable to allocate the considerable amount of money for education from their annual budget. So we propose we should allocate at least 6% for education. Once you allocate 6% for education, of course automatically the level of the education will go up. At the same time, health, as I said earlier, sectors like health, transport, we believe, under our system believe it's not a commodity, it's something that giving back by the state for the working class and the general public as a gift. So therefore we are not concentrating to earn profit out of that. Those are the services. So definitely we take steps to enhance these quality of these services like transport and health. So now, as you correctly point out, the attitude of the rulers the most important thing. If you take all these things as commodities, of course you have to curtail the allocations, but under our system we completely with the people's side, with the general public's perspective. Therefore we definitely take immediate steps to develop these sectors.
Interesting thoughts indeed. We are in conversation with Attorney at Law Nuwan Bopage, the presidential candidate from the Jana Aragala Sandhana. We will be taking a short commercial break now. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
Voice Teens ගායන ශිල්පිනී නදුනි යමීෂාගේ නවතම ගීතය Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube ඇතුළු ඔබගේ ප්‍රියතම සංගීත සේවාවන් හරහා රස විඳින්න.
M Entertainments.
10 teams, 23 matches. ICC Women's T20 World Cup Bangladesh 2024 coming soon.
Welcome back to Face to Face. We are in conversation with Attorney at Law Nuwan Bopage, the presidential candidate from the Jana Aragala Sandhana, or in English it's known as the People's Struggle Alliance. Nuwan, we were speaking about the services by the state and revenue as well. And in terms of revenue, let's get to the IMF agreement, which you alluded to earlier. If you and your party come into office, what would be your philosophy towards IMF agreements?
Without any hesitation, our policy is exit IMF. That is because it's not a solution at all for this prevailing economic crisis. We know these rulers, actually Ranil Wickremesinghe and their government, portrayed the picture that this is the only way to we have to come out with this economic crisis. But what the IMF did for last 2 years, ultimately all the suggestions, all the proposals on the side of the IMF to give this burden to the general public. Apart from that, nothing has been happened. At the same time, they gave that assurance to the international sovereign bond holders. They only guaranteed them to pay back our loans, but at the same time none of the negotiations were carrying out on the side of the people. Then the taxation, the percentage of the taxation from the GDP enhanced from 9% to 15%. Ultimately people, those are detriment to the general public of this country. Even same thing has happened in the Bangladesh. Actually this Bangladesh uprising also on one side is an anti-IMF uprising. So therefore the IMF was even unable to negotiate with our debtors, because now there's no haircut. So only they even after Ranil Wickremesinghe's statement was for another 5 years time we are not paying our debt, but there's no at least haircut. Countries like Ecuador, Greece, they attempted, actually they fought for haircut. So what the IMF did for last 2 years? Ultimately nothing. Therefore the exit IMF is the main slogan of under our government. So we take appropriate step to exit from IMF while bringing our own solution for this economic crisis.
Interesting indeed, exit the IMF agreement. However, let me ask you quite pointedly, now the Ranil Wickremesinghe regime has renegotiated some of our debts, and we were told that in 2028 we would need to start repaying quite a lot of that. So there is a looming deadline, 2028. Aren't you afraid that if we exit the IMF agreement, then when 2028 comes and we have to, as a nation, pay back so much, how would your regime handle this?
First of all, these Ranil Wickremesinghe's statements are utter false, and they created a myth to the society that the only way out is the IMF intervention. At the same time, they portrayed the picture this debt restructuring is going well, but ultimately what happened? They gave some grace period, but at least there is no forensic audit regarding the debts. When we have a proper forensic audit, we could identify what are the dangerous debts, what are the odious debts, at the same time what are the predatory debts. So first we have to identify what are the odious debt and predatory debts. So we should definitely tell we are not paying this amount, because we are not liable to pay that. The very purpose of giving this debt to completely exploit our countries. So at if there is a balance after we saying that we are not paying that, there is a balance, then we should negotiate at least to cut 80% out of this from the face value. The countries like Ecuador were able to actually go for a haircut of 50% out of their debt. So our rulers did not even negotiated that. They always stood on the side of that debtors who gave loans to us. So this debt restructuring is utter false. It's not a solution at all for the country. Therefore, under our role, of course, we are identifying predatory and odious debts. We are not paying that amount. The balance amount is concerned. First of all, we are trying to get a haircut. After getting a reasonable haircut, the balance we are giving assurance we are paying that, and then only we are discussing the grace period. Before you go in for a grace period, you should first discuss how to go for a haircut, how to completely remove these odious and predatory debts.
Interesting indeed. Seems like your regime would be on a head-on collision course with not just the IMF but with our creditors as well, and you would be renegotiating quite a bit. Do you feel that you have a professional team which can manage such a negotiation? Now, the Ranil Wickremesinghe presidency actually went overseas and hired two international firms, Clifford Chance and Lazard, to do the negotiating for us. Do you feel that we in Sri Lanka have that kind of international exposure in order to renegotiate with creditors?
Of course. Now the other myth is, now they gave an indication to people we need experts to do this. The general public do not have any knowledge about this, but very simply, even right now, state only negotiating with these creditors. So whatever company comes, ultimately Ranil Wickremesinghe went to China, the foreign minister went to India, another minister went to Japan. Ultimately our state only negotiating. The people should understand this. As far as debt is concerned, state only should negotiate with creditors, which the state is doing. All these companies are there, as you said, Clifford Chance and other companies with IMF, they are coming to give assurance to the creditors, not to the public. So as far as the public perspective is concerned, the state should negotiate with them by standing in the side of public. But all these people acting in collusion now taking the side of creditors. Therefore, we must tell, of course, now if the central bank has expertise, so we have some other left oriented expertise as well. Whoever experts, the ultimately depend on the political decision of the government. So our political decision and what we are insisting to do is to negotiate on the side of the people, not the side of the creditors.
Collusion and corruption, well, very interesting indeed. So let's get to anti-corruption. Nuwan, how would you set about making Sri Lanka corruption free, or at least markedly reducing the amount of corruption which seems to be everywhere, from the policeman on the street who stops you and demands a bribe of 1,000 rupees, up to the cabinet minister who is making billions. How do you set about this?
Actually, corruption is inevitably part of this system. So as I earlier said, since I being a practitioner, law practitioner, I know when we go to the registries of the court, now we could see a lot of corruption. Why is that? Because the majority of the people get very low salary, out of which that they can't survive in day-to-day life. Therefore, it's a part of the economic crisis. Then white collar robbery is also there. So they are always part of the state. Even I know now two parties are going to introduce their candidate as 2 billionaires. 1 billionaire is concerned, he is the one who did not pay around the maximum amount of money as taxes. So he didn't pay. So before coming as a candidate, he should pay his taxes. So likewise, this corruption is a part of this system. Once we change it to a people-oriented system, that is the only way out that we can change this system, corrupted system. So we at the same time, we are immediately going to introduce new laws regarding tax invoicing, because there is a massive scam regarding the invoicing. At the same time, to recover unpaid taxes, and we are going to enhance the digital money exchange, because then of course it's very difficult to do corruption actually, especially the taxation things. So likewise, we are taking immediate step to minimize these corruption. At the same time, once we build people oriented system, people need not to involve in corruption, because that is their own system.
Interesting indeed. Now let's get to something which the minorities in this country are very interested in, particularly the 13th Amendment and devolution of power. Now the 13th Amendment it's part of the Constitution, but for goodness knows more than 40 years perhaps we have simply ignored this part of the Constitution simply because it was politically inconvenient. But the minorities have continuously pressed for this. Now it's not just something for the minorities, it is for all 9 provinces. Now you spoke about bringing the people into government as much as possible. So the provincial council system was intended to do just that. What is your party's proposition with regard to implementation of the 13th Amendment? Would you go further than that, or less than that, or implement it as it is?
Yeah, it's a very good question. As far as the national question is concerned, we have come up with a very radical and concrete solution. We identified 2 nationalities who are suffering from national question: Tamils, Muslims, and Malay Tamil, that is hill country Tamils. So first we identified them as nationalities who need a solution for national question. Then we suggest we should give self-ruling areas and units for these communities. Then we need a proper demarcation, actually scientific demarcation for their areas based on their referendums. After this delimitation, through the constitution, we are giving assurance you can rule your own areas. So this is not this 13th Amendment thing. It's now actually trodden thing. So it's not a solution at all for these issues, because still the capitalist class of Sinhala capitalist class and the other Tamil capitalist class, they got together and using this 13th Amendment for their own survival. So we are going further. We are giving self-ruling areas. At the same time, there is a centralized democratic system. For self-ruling areas, there is a separate parliament kind of thing. There is another parliament kind of structure as a one state. So there are 2 senates. Even after we are giving these self-ruling areas, if there are any draconian laws detrimental to self-ruling areas, we have to get the approval from both structures. That is structure we introducing for self-ruling areas. The other structure is the island-wide structure. So with that, we are giving proper concrete solution. We are not going to betray other nationalities. At the same time, we have a discussion with the South majority Sinhalese. until you are giving proper solution for Tamils and Muslims and other marginalized groups, you couldn't get any freedom, you couldn't get any liberty. Majority also get affected if there is a proper solution, if there is no proper solution for minorities. Therefore, we are come up without any hesitation. We are coming up with these concrete solutions. So at the same time, we are canvassing the South, because throughout the history, what these ruling class did, they actually, with their political ideologies, they actually what they did was they portrayed the picture Tamils and Muslims only their enemies. So we are going to change that attitude with that, and this is our solution for national question.
Now, Nuwan, although you're the candidate for the presidential election, your alliance is actually aiming to contest the general election on its own as well.
Yes.
You don't intend to form any coalitions with other parties, but you would go it alone. Tell us a little bit about your preparations for that, because after all, we expect that election before the end of the year. So are you going to contest nationwide, or would it be just in certain provinces? And do you feel you have enough candidates to contest?
Yeah, already we have formed executive committees for all the districts. Now we are doing our presidential election campaign in all districts. At the same time, we have a good preparation for general election following to presidential election.
Right, that's very interesting. And then let's talk about the local government elections, which were postponed by the present regime. They were supposed to have been held about a year and a half ago, and the nominations were called, and everything seemed ready to go, and then it was simply not held. What is your party's view on this? Would you call for it immediately? When would it be held?
Yeah, whatever election is a reflection of a democracy. For the moment, we are not saying that's the only method of expressing the exercising the democratic rights. But yeah, of course, if the local authorities election is a vital election, that it should be called. But if under our rule, rather than implementing this existing local authority system, but we are suggesting people's councils kind of structure. All the segment of society, geographical wise, and other segments, for instance, there are transgender communities, so they should be given opportunity as a council to get together and take part on the decision making process. Likewise, geographically and other forces based structures like people's council, through that having proper discussions, send suggestion to the central, at the same time participate the decision making process. That is a system we are suggesting, but for a moment we are not saying elections like local authorities should completely reverse. So those are the reflection of the democracy.
Right, so you are in favor of immediate local government elections, but you would be proposing constitutional changes to make it more people oriented.
Yes.
Right, interesting. And the whole point of local government bodies was to make it more people oriented. Unfortunately, that may not have happened as much as we expected. Now, having looked at your manifesto a little bit, I noticed things like the right to recall of elected persons.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it, because right now, you know, we elect someone, whether it's the president or a member of parliament, and we are stuck with that person for 5 years. Unless there's some exceptional circumstance like the Aragalaya period, where the government, the president and the prime minister had to literally go home or leave home, whichever way you want to put it. So tell me a little bit about this right to recall.
Yeah, of course. Now you know, now we are having the representative democracy. From direct democracy, why we came to the representative democracy, the very purpose of that, all the people cannot go to parliament and participate in the decision making process. Therefore, we are sending our representatives. Then representative always should represent the demand of the people. Now what is happening here? So last election, all majority of the Pohottuwa members were against the Ranil Wickremesinghe's policy. Now inside the parliament, they are representing Ranil Wickremesinghe, not the people voted them. Then people, let's example the Gampha district. Gampha district people voted for their representative to not to bring draconian laws like terrorist act and these online safety bill. But without consulting the people who voted them, this member inside the parliament voting for that particular bill. So this is a completely mockery, this representative democracy. Therefore, to expand this participatory democracy, we are bringing provisions like right to recall. By any chance your representative has not represented you inside the parliament or other bodies, there are certain provisions at any time you can recall them by way of a resolution.
Okay, so how would that work? Would you need to get a certain number of signatures and then bring a resolution?
Yes, yes. So we are going to include it to the constitution.
And then you would have essentially a by-election.
Exactly.
Right, interesting indeed. So you would keep the MPs on their toes as far as representing the will of the people in their particular district.
Exactly.
Very good. That may mean that we would meet our representatives, our MPs, a little more frequently, because mostly the members of the public see their representatives on TV or flashing by in huge motorcades. Right, then there's another point, judicial review of laws, new laws.
Yes.
How would that work? Because right now there's hardly any judicial review. We get, I believe, something like 2 weeks in which to challenge a bill when it has been gazetted, and that's really not enough. And then once it is passed by Parliament, no one gets to review it or challenge it at all. It's there forever until another Parliament deems fit to remove it or to amend it. But of course parliaments are way too busy fighting each other to look into these things. So we have some laws which are over 100 years old from the British period, and nobody has had the time or seen fit to actually change these. And they may be the most ridiculous laws, but they have to be applied, and the courts have no authority to strike them down. So how would this judicial review of laws operate?
Yeah, perhaps of course this particular pre-enactment review system is completely anti-democratic, because let's take example as a tax law. Once the parliament bring tax law, after it has been passed, the entire people will be definitely affected out of that. But only 2 weeks has been given for review in the Supreme Court. That also confined to elite class, because general public, they don't know about these legal terms. It's very difficult to study them. One segment of people having some sort of concern about these, so political parties only going and challenging this. So we have to change this. So we are introducing the post enactment review system. Even after particular act has been passed, still the room is open people to still come before courts and challenge certain sections, especially against the constitution and against the rights of the people.
So you are proposing enormous changes to the constitution, and of course you would need that 2/3 majority to do so.
No, in fact now once we come up with this our manifesto, even in the presidential election people vote for that. So we have that mandate. With that mandate, I think we can immediately do these certain reforms.
Interesting. Now tell us a little bit about industrialization, because Sri Lanka seems to have largely skipped that phase in development. We are hardly industrialized. We are still very much agriculture based, where numbers of our population are concerned. They are still mainly into farming, and subsistence farming, farming for Sri Lankans, for Sri Lanka to eat, not much for export. So industrialization, of course, is something that all of the developed nations went through. We haven't got there. Now, as a party which represents the workers, especially those in factories and so on, how do you propose to bring foreign direct investment in order to industrialize?
Investment in the sense, so what we are suggesting, of course, we are building a production based economy. We have to enhance the productivity. In order to do that, we need technology. To actually to develop the technology, we need foreign investment. Of course, we are warmly welcome foreign investment, but right now the foreign investment means the investments coming to Sri Lanka, but ultimately nothing could be gained out of that. Every single cent they are taking back to their own countries as dollars. So that's an issue. So we are specially focusing, ultimately even whatever investment, benefits should go to the workers, benefits should come to the country. Based on that only we are inviting investment. Otherwise we are not going to build up with that, with foreign investment, with tax concession for these investment. We are going to invite them to come and do whatever they want. For example, economic transformation bill which brought by Ranil Wickremesinghe, completely trying to sell the country for the sake of foreign investment, but complete disregarding the general public. So whatever investment, ultimately the people should be benefited. That is our policy. Then enhance the salaries of the workers. At the same time, for research sector, we are only giving only 0.1% from our allocation for education for research sector. So we are immediately enhancing that. Then our students, our intellectuals, they can increase their research sector. With that we can develop our own technology. So through especially the, as you said, agriculture sector is concerned, we are completely allowing tax-free to bring tax-free machineries for farmers while giving all the benefits. Likewise, through that we are bringing the technology to countries with our own system, rather than being some sort of slave of a foreign investment or foreign country.
Interesting thoughts and policies indeed. I'm afraid we are out of time tonight. Thank you very much to Mr. Nuwan Bopage, presidential candidate from the Jana Aragala Sandhanaya of People's Struggle Alliance. Thank you for being here, and thank you to you at home for watching. Don't go away, the news is coming up next. Have a good evening.